With webCRM's Exchange integration, you have the possibility of being synchronized in both your webCRM system and your local mail and calendar client. webCRM's Exchange integration can synchronize your meetings, contact persons, activities, and emails including attachments, and is available for all mail and calendar clients for PC and Mac, as long as they are connected to an Exchange, hosted Exchange, or Office 365. webCRM's Exchange integration therefore also secures that all your Exchange units are updated with the latest information from your webCRM system. Note that if you're already using webCRM's Outlook integration for PC, your data first needs to be migrated to the new Exchange integration by webCRM support. In order to do so, please contact webCRM and we'll assist you to perform this process before you proceed. This video is divided into chapters so you easily can find the information you want to learn more about. In this overview you can see when the various chapters starts, so you easily can fast forward to the chapter you need. You can access your webCRM Exchange integration by clicking on Configuration, Integration, and Exchange integration. To begin with, select the version of your Exchange server. Then enter the URL address to your webmail and add this string to the URL line. In that way, the Exchange integration can have a direct access to your Exchange server. Note that you can always test if the URL works by testing it in an internet browser as shown here. When you see this little pop-up box, the line is correctly configured and you can now paste it into webCRM. Next, you select whether you want individual account setup or a single account setup. The last mentioned assumes that the company uses its own Exchange server. However, the individual account setup can be used for both purposes. Enter your username and password to your webmail for each user. Note that users who are not supposed to be connected to the integration can be disabled here in the user area. For the individual setup, you must also add one of the users in this login box, as the Exchange integration uses it to verify the server during the synchronization. For single account setup, this box is used to log on to the company's own Exchange server, and then you only need to type in the username under individual users. Finally, please remember to set the directions in these 5 fields, since they're the ones who decide what to synchronize to and from webCRM. Note that the Exchange integration synchronizes every 15 minutes, and should you by accident have chosen the wrong type of server or have entered incorrect login details to your webmail, you will see an error after the first 15 minutes, and you can now retype the correct information and restart the synchronization. After the initial synchronization is complete, you'll in your local mail client see the following: a folder in your inbox and sent mail, both named webCRM Sync. 3 color categories with the names webCRM Sync, Synced, and Non-Synced. Should the last mentioned 3 color categories not or only partly be there, it is because the predefined colors are already in use in your local client, and you now have to manually create these here. Insert the text for the category as shown here and assign it to a color. To synchronize an inbound email to webCRM, you'll have to drag and drop it into the webCRM Sync folder placed in the inbox. The Exchange integration then synchronizes it automatically to webCRM when the next 15 minutes interval starts. When the mail is correctly synchronized, it is automatically assigned the colors of webCRM Sync and Synced, and is then moved back into the inbox again. For outbound mails, the procedure is the same as for receiving mails. However, you must place the mails you send in your webCRM Sync folder located in the Sent mail. Note that the Exchange integration also synchronizes attachments from inbound emails. All mails that are synchronized correctly can be found here in the mail history on the customer card. The mail history shows as default outbound mail, but you can switch to inbound by clicking the drop-down list and select this. If the mail, however, doesn't get synchronized, you will find it under the inbound email module, which you can access on the front page of webCRM. Note that when an email ends up in here, it's because it wasn't possible to find the contact's email address in webCRM. From here, you must manually direct the email to the right customer card. When you want to synchronize a meeting to webCRM, then create the meeting in your local calendar and insert the email address of the person you want to synchronize to. The meeting will now be synchronized to webCRM in the next run, and will in your local calendar be assigned the colors of webCRM Sync and Synced. If the Exchange integration can find the email address in webCRM, the meeting will be placed under the customer card. If, however, it wasn't possible to locate the contact in webCRM, then the meeting is placed in the webCRM calendar, displaying a little update icon from which you can choose to direct the meeting to the right customer card. The last mentioned also applies when you're in your local calendar has set up a meeting with no attendees. To synchronize a private meeting to webCRM, you shouldn't assign a person but only clicking the lock to set it to private. When you make changes to your synced meetings, they'll now be updated both in webCRM and your local client. The synchronization is dependent, though, on the direction you chose when you initially set up the Exchange integration as shown in the installation chapter. If you chose to synchronize both ways, your meetings are now updated both in webCRM and your local client when you perform changes to these. When you want to synchronize a new contact person to your webCRM system, then create the person in your local client with the relevant information. It is very important that you also put in a company name in the box here, as the Exchange integration first creates the company and then the contact person in your webCRM system. If, however, you use webCRM's B2C version, which is based on individual persons, it's enough just to enter the person details. Then you assign the color for use for webCRM Sync, and the Exchange integration finally assigns the synced color when the person is synchronized correctly. Note that you can also mass synchronize your contacts from your local client by selecting them as shown here and assign the color for webCRM Sync to all of them. But before you do this, we recommend that you go through your contact persons to ensure the quality of the desired information. You can see what information is being synchronized by clicking on Configuration, Integration, and the Exchange integration. Here you can also opt for more fields to synchronize if you need this. The synchronization is dependent, though, on the direction you chose when you initially set up the Exchange integration as shown in the installation chapter. If you chose to synchronize both ways, your contact persons are now updated in both webCRM and your local client when you perform changes to these. When you want to synchronize activities to webCRM, you have to create the activity in your local client. Then assign it to an email address to the contact person the activity concerns, and give it the color for webCRM Sync. The Exchange integration synchronizes it in the next run to webCRM and assigns it in your local client with the color for Synced. If it can't find your contact's email address in the webCRM system, the activity is now marked as non-synced and you must now create the email address in webCRM. Then remove the non-synced color again and the activity is now included the next time the Exchange integration launches. The synchronization is dependent, though, on the direction you chose when you initially set up the Exchange integration as shown in the installation chapter. If you chose to synchronize both ways, your contact persons are updated both in webCRM and your local client when you perform changes to these. If your smartphone is connected to the Exchange server and you want to synchronize directly from your smartphone, you can, if it doesn't support color categories, take advantage of the webCRM app, which you can access at www.webcrm.com/mobile. Your entries in webCRM from your mobile is now synchronized to the Exchange server within 15 minutes. The synchronization is dependent though on the direction you chose when you initially set up the Exchange integration as shown in the installation chapter. If you chose to synchronize both ways, your entries are now updated both in webCRM and your local client when you perform changes to these. You also still have the possibility to synchronize email in the same way as described in the chapter about email synchronization. webCRM's app can also be found on Google Play. You can choose the webCRM Exchange integration here under Configuration and License. Remember that if you're already using webCRM's Outlook integration for PC, your data first needs to be migrated to the new Exchange integration by webCRM support. In order to do so, please contact webCRM and we'll assist you to perform this process before you proceed.